Looking back at Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think it was a great kickoff for a new era for the series. Like, from now on, there won't be one game trying to appeal to every Assassin's Creed fan. While we will go back to the yearly releases, every title will focus on a different audience. The RPG lovers, the PvP multiplayer fans, and what's really exciting is that we now have the Assassin's Creed Mirage developers hinting at their next big project that will likely be very different from the massive open world RPG that we get this year with Red. During a recent Reddit AMA, Do Not Look Up asked would the team at Ubisoft Bordeaux be interested in developing additional old school Assassin's Creed games if the opportunity presented itself, or are games from other or new IPs the main goal of the team going forward. With the creative director on Mirage, Stefan Boudin, noting that we work in the dark to serve the light, winky emoji. It doesn't get more clear than that. And I looked at job openings for the Bordeaux studio, and we see one for the cinematic designer who mentions that you will join the production team to work on a new Assassin's Creed game. There's also a senior level designer who will be working on a new AAA project and work in close collaboration with the art and quest teams to design balanced, readable environments that serve the player experience. Which really sounds like the highways Ubisoft makes through the cities. Clear paths with visual cues that the player can follow if they want to easily parkour through the environment. Like, they're already hard at work on their next big Assassin's Creed title, or maybe two, but more on that in a moment. I think it's at least safe to say that we won't be playing Basim in these projects. Because while the creative director notes 2 times that they have ideas on how to extend the story of Basim, and that they still have a lot to say about Basim, it does seem that their heart is somewhere else. Because when talking about Basim, he also notes that creating a game with that much constraints is a difficult exercise, and as the team, we would also love to explore new horizons and have more creative freedom. We know Mirage started as a Valhalla DLC, even though we now learned that it was just one slide in a PowerPoint presentation. We as Eivor would go to the Middle East. They looked at Jerusalem, Acre and Damascus, so basically the cities from AC1. But then they discovered that during this time, Baghdad was actually the center of everything, and Basim of course grew up in the city. So since they wanted to go back to the roots with a stealth focus, Basim as an assassin as the main character also made of course more sense. But then they had to make a game around a character that they did not create themselves. Ubisoft Montreal of course did for Valhalla. While other big Assassin's Creed games of course mostly get a clean slate. Now, Bordeaux's biggest project before Mirage was the Wrath of the Druids DLC, so I do think it makes sense that they could not immediately go and make a major mainline title, but with the release of Mirage they really proved themselves. Like, it's pretty cool what they did with the Valhalla tools, and on a relatively short dev cycle of 2.5 years. Like, I can't wait to see what they will do when they have more time and freedom, and the creative director actually already hinted at some features that this new old school title will probably have. Of course, leaving a like on the video would, by the way, really help me out, and subscribe, because when we hear more about the future of Assassin's Creed, I will of course be the first to let you know. So when asked what he would have wanted for Mirage, but that could not quite make it into the game due to time and budget, the creative director said that he would have loved to push ways for players to create their own challenges and their own contracts and be able to share them in-game. And this really reminds me of the story creator mode from Odyssey, but then a better version. Like, the idea on paper was great, let the community make brand new quests, so there's basically an unlimited amount of content, but the problem was that without voice acting, cutscenes and lip sync, the missions would not come close to the quality that we see in the rest of the game, so you would always play a lesser experience. While the combat challenges people made, myself included, were actually a ton of fun, because you would not find this many enemies in one location or the combination of enemies in one spot. So Stefan, the creative director on Mirage, is basically saying we want a feature where players can make their own gameplay focused contracts that we of course already saw in Mirage, like steal something from this area or assassinate this target, and then share it with other players, so they can complete it. Like, that could be super huge. I know some people wished there was more to do in Mirage, and this would solve that issue. I really hope they can make this happen for the next game. We can likely also expect more non-lethal takedown options. It won't be coming to Mirage, but he will work in the dark to serve that purpose. Okay. And when asked about cut content for Mirage, he noted that they had some like special enemies, features, but that they did have a chance to deliver some of them during the post-launch like New Game Plus, which was great. For the rest, no ideas are lost forever. So it's interesting to look at the GDC presentation they did a few months ago, where they talked about more cut features for the game. Like, they wanted to do a monkey companion for Basim. The quality of the image is not that great, but we see it right here, and this monkey would be able to do parkour, infiltrate specific locations, to pickpocket keys, and also be kinda a decoy for attracting guards. Now let me know what you think in the comments, of course, but I think this sounds pretty cool. Like, I'm overall over the Raven. I also rarely used it in Mirage, but this could be a fun twist, and kind of makes me think of Nyx from Star Wars Outlaws, that can of course also distract guards or be used to interact with the environment. But yeah, the two reasons they dropped this idea was that it would require a lot of animation. They would have to mocap a monkey, and the means to do so were way beyond what they could do in Bordeaux, a smaller studio than Montreal. Now they're moving into a way bigger studio this year, so that should not be an issue anymore. Another big reason was that monkeys were not really a thing in a 9th century Baghdad, which is a pretty good point. But again, for their next game, they could pick a setting where it does make sense. Other things that were cut that we could see come back in the future were sandstorms. While we had them in Origins, they were only in spots where nothing happened, while in Mirage that was not possible because of the focus on the city. So they would have to make a lot of different reactions for NPCs, it would have impacted detection of course, it was just a bit too much. I also think that it would be kind of annoying having this storm suddenly ruin your perfect stealth infiltration. They had plans for the Dog Master enemies, similar to the Wolf Stormer from Valhalla, but there was no way to always non-lethally assassinate the dog. So that's why they removed it. It was pretty far in development. I think it would have been cool for the variety, but yeah, they dropped it. And they first had special attacks, likely for Basim. Like, in their next game, they totally need more weapons and combat options to make it a bit more fleshed out. They cut horse races, even though there was a horse track in the city. And they even wanted to do the Zoo of Caliph with elephants, that they could of course use from Origins. Although they're kinda huge, like I don't think that that would have worked. Slider V2 found this scene in the Assassin's Creed Mirage game files. Here we heard two Animus operators discuss the fact that William Miles is attached to a lot of interesting DNA samples. But one of the two operators does not know who William Miles is, because it was the 21st century, which they describe as ancient history, hinting at the fact that these two are from the future. So this again did not appear in the game, but it was planned at some point, seemingly as a teaser for Assassin's Creed Hexe. Now during the AMA, the art director Jean-Luc Salah noted that regarding the cut modern day stuff, all we can say is that what's not in your playthrough does not exist. So this scene was cut for a reason. Look, it could still be set in the future. We know the modern day will change a lot this year, because it will now live on the Assassin's Creed Infinity platform that will launch alongside Red and not be in Red itself. So they will likely make it a starting point, so people that are new to the franchise can also understand it. But again, this scene has nothing to do with it. Again, I think the future is bright. We finally have a big new open world RPG this year, a PvP multiplayer game next year, maybe something else as well. 2026 has Hexe, we have a Black Flag remake coming. So yeah, many Assassin's Creed games, but all different types of experiences for different audiences. And then I did not even mention the Assassin's Creed 1 remake that is likely also in the works, and I would not be surprised if it's Ubisoft Bordeaux who's doing it, because they of course did a ton with the setting for Mirage, so can use a lot of those assets maybe. And I showed you the job listing for the cinematic designer earlier, and it's interesting because this job posting for the new Assassin's Creed game is for only 9 months. And I don't think the Mirage team already has narrative moments and in-game dialogue ready for their next big game 7 months after Mirage came out. So what is this person going to do in 9 months starting in May? I think only like working on the remake makes a lot of sense, because they of course already have the dialogue and stuff for that game ready. Of course, let me know what you think of that theory in the comments down below. And Mirage is, by the way, over. They have no plans for new major updates. They are really going to shift focus to Assassin's Creed Red. And when we hear anything about that, I'll of course be the first to let you know here. So subscribe for everything Assassin's Creed. A like on the video would really help me out. And check out my recent video on why the Red reveal is probably close by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.